It's just the way I was taught, it's the way I was brought up. Do the damn job right, or don't do it at all. I push my people to do the best they can all the time, not just sometimes. I want to make the finest product on the planet. I use every bit of technology that I can get my hands on to make my knives. All of our handles are lapped before we go with any other machining process. That gets our product nice and flat and true. Titanium doesn't come in very consistent thicknesses, all very flat. And so once it's been water jet, we put it into this lapping machine and lap it so that it's parallel and it's straight, so that we come down to a nice parallel lengthwise and crosswise, and that the part is nice and flat. When you clamp them in the fixture, they clamp down nice and flat and straight. So you drill your holes. Once you unclamp them, they don't buckle, and then your hole's not straight when you go for assembly. It's just, that's part of the Sebenza quality that we put together. It's part of that nice smooth feel. Other manufacturers use adjustability in their pivot to get that. We get it by making the part, the two handle slabs, dead parallel, dead flat, dead true before. So it's part of what puts the expense into our knives, but it's part of what makes our knives right. I had a fellow working for me who was my quality control guy, and he had worked in the aerospace industry for quite a few years, and he said to me, he says, "Holy moly," he says, "you work to closer tolerances than the aerospace industry." I said, "So?" I said, "If that's what makes my product the best, then that's what we got to do, isn't it?" You pay a lot more for a Ferrari than you do for a Mitsubishi sports car. You're not just paying for the Ferrari name, you're paying for the performance of that car, and the way they get that performance is it's made to much tighter tolerances and so forth and so on. So this machine is machining small Sebenza handles. It'll take the handle from a water jet titanium blank to a completed handle. The blanks, water jet blanks, are put on, clamped down, they're drilled, and half the profile is machined. Then they come off of that, they've moved to the station 2. Then the holes that were drilled are used for location, and then the other side is machined, and then they get flipped over, and all the inside detail is all machined, and then basically the handle is complete. I grew up in South Africa on the coast. The city of Durban and that coastline is one of the most corrosive atmospheres in the world. But a straight high carbon steel is very susceptible to corrosion. I sell knives all over the world. I can't afford to sell a knife to somebody who is in the Everglades in Florida or in a tropical jungle somewhere where that knife is going to corrode. I worked very closely with Crucible to develop S35VN. In fact, S35VN was, after working with them on S30V, I pushed and pushed and pushed for them to develop something better, as in S35VN. And I wanted to go to the next level, and S35VN is the next level. It's not the ultimate in edge retention. Hell's bells, we can go to some of the fancy high-speed steels and get tremendous edge retention, but boy, the average customer's not going to get his edge back on those things. You've got to heat treat your steel, use a steel with your customer in mind as well. Something that that customer can sharpen relatively easily and not chip out and not break. There's a compromise in everything. So this machine we bought beginning of the year, it's a 20-inch by 40-inch surface grinder, probably one of the biggest in the state of Idaho. And what we use this machine for is to grind our blanks down from a rough sheet size to a rough machining size. So in other words, 4 thousandths per side oversize. So then they can be profiled and machined and all the work done on them before they go for heat treatment. Heat treatment is always, you're taking it up to 1900 and something degrees. It's going to do odd things to material, and then you're quenching it or cooling it very, very rapidly. It's not going to stay dead flat. So you get a little bit of warpage in the blade. So we straighten it out on a little machine that I built, something that I designed and we built it, and we end up with a part that's dead flat. Then they go back on this surface grinder, and we then grind them down to their finite thickness, which is plus minus about 1/10, which is very, very close tolerance. And that's what gives us our consistency and our no sideways play. 1/10 of a thousandth of an inch is a very small measurement, considering the average human hair is about about 6 to 7 thousandths in diameter. So take 1/10 of 1/1000th of that. That's a very small measurement. Here's our grinding machine. So this is technology that we have developed that is way more advanced than anybody else in the knife industry. It gives us a surface finish that is extremely fine and refined. But if you look at our hollow grind, so that's the height of the grind, it's actually from the cutting edge to here about 100 thousandths point. So about 100 thousandths of an inch. It's actually thinner here than it is at this point. Now, what that gives you is life, sharpening life in your blade. It means that bevel stays relatively the same width as you sharpen back in the life of the knife. Whereas if you had a flat ground knife and that went in a straight line from here to here, it's going to thicken up as you sharpen back. It's going to thicken and thicken and thicken. Now, on our large hollow grind technology, okay, this knife here, because everybody, a lot of our customers requested flat ground blades. A lot of people like flat ground blades. They tend to have a little bit more strength in it. However, I must note that in the 25 years that we've been making Sebenzas, I don't know, we may have had probably in 25 years 100 blades come back to us broken. Maybe. So in order to satisfy the customers that want a flat grind, and it's something I've been wanting to do for many years, is go back to what they used to do about 150 years ago, when the cutlers used to grind on the big sandstone wheels. Okay. Back in Europe, lying flat on their bellies, and create a very shallow hollow grind. So we've developed the technology, and we introduced it on the large 25, L25, or the Sebenza 25, in June, where from here to here is not flat, but it's ever so slightly hollow, and we end up with, from that point to that point, a hollow of about 6 to 8 thousandths of an inch. And it's slightly elliptical, so we get most of the hollow happening in there. The greatest hollow is around about that point. So you minimize the thickening up at that point, so you get the best of both worlds. You get the minimalization of the thickening up as you sharpen the blade, but you get that added strength up here in the blade. A lot of companies grind blades where the wheel and the path, the cutter path, just follows this curve. Ours do not. Ours are a totally three-dimensional movement. So this blade is one of the hollow grind blades that I was talking about earlier, where we have a 5-inch radius here, 10-inch diameter wheel, and we have what we call a true hollow grind, where it is actually ever so slightly thinner, 100 thousandths back from the cutting edge. So you have in this cutting edge here 100 thousandths of life in that cutting edge, where it will not thicken up on you. And then we also have what we call a 3-dimensional grind, where it twists to that point to give you a nice robust point, where that point will not just break easily. If we didn't have that 3-dimensional twist, this grind line here, that point there, would end up somewhere over here. We'd have a long tapered point, and it would break off very easily. That's what this machine is doing here. It took us a long time to develop this. It's been over 10 years of development, and we're still not there yet, because it's a lot of money. I wish we had a lot more money to throw at it, but we're getting there. We're learning a lot. Every month we learn something, and we're moving ahead quite rapidly.